Okay, so we're up to habit number 9. And habit number 9 is to look for interesting light. Again, that's another one that seems kind of obvious, but the more you think about it, the more complicated it gets, and the more deep it gets, and the more options you have. A lot of times when we think about interesting light, we're first drawn to sunrises and sunsets, and maybe foggy days, light that's doing something different, because that holds our attention. That's anything that's different, that's unique and rare, not ordinary, will hold our attention. And sunrises and sunsets with their amazing colors and their clouds and all that will often hold our attention because they don't last very long, and they are more dramatic and interesting than the light that's there during the rest of the day. And then same thing with fog. It's very ephemeral. It doesn't last very long. It tends to be short duration, and it totally transforms the way things look. So it becomes interesting light. I'd also like to encourage you to think of interesting light, not just in terms of sunrise and sunset, but in terms of how the light is interacting. Look for shadows. Sometimes light that you wouldn't expect to do something interesting might be making interesting shadows, creating shapes and hiding things because the shadows are doing something interesting in interaction with the subject. So there's lots and lots of interesting light out there besides sunrise and sunset, which I'm very glad for, because sunrise and sunsets often happen at times when I'm eating. So we're going to take a look at some photos, walk through a few photos of mine that I hope kind of exemplify this and show you how besides sunrise and sunset, you can find interesting light. So this first photo is a sunset. It's just down the road from where I live here in Sammamish, with that lone tree I photograph a lot. And the sun had just hit the horizon, and so we get this starburst. That effect is accomplished with a small aperture, if you're interested in that. And then the colors are simply amazing with the blues and the oranges and the reds. So it transforms things. It's interesting light, and almost anything that is photographed with that as a backdrop will be an interesting subject. So that's a pretty easy one. Kind of rare, though. I haven't seen a sunset like that in quite a while around here. Second photo, another sunset, but this one's really different because this is a few years ago when we had some wildfires here in Northwest Washington and surrounding, and we had sunsets for about 2-3 weeks where the sky was just red. And I was coming home from a summer school class, saw this sunset happening, and used the tree branches as a frame around this just red blob of glowing sun in the sky to make it a little more interesting. So the light provides the work of giving me an interesting subject to photograph, and then the composition of using that tree, those tree leaves, as a frame around it. Next photo with some interesting light is another sunset, but this one is after the sun's gone down. This is called blue hour. Oftentimes it's the bit of time after the sun goes down and you get very, very blue colors in the sky. I like this one because it's muted, it's quiet. That color blue is one of my favorite colors. So it's not a loud photo. It's a simple photo, just a couple tree silhouettes, 3 tree silhouettes, and then the colors in the sky, transitioning from orange to blue. So it's simple, but again, it's interesting because it doesn't happen very often. Next photo is again as a blue hour, so sun is set. It's the moon in the sky, again positioned. I'm using a tree as basically a holder for the moon against this very simple but nice blue color sky. This photo is made, one of the interesting things about this is just to get that position just right, it's just raising and lowering myself an inch or two to get the position just right. Next photo is some fog, a very foggy morning, looking right into the sun. So it totally transforms how this little meadow and path looks in Marymore Park in Redmond. Again, 2 hours later, when this fog is cleared, it's a totally different scene. So the light makes this more interesting than it normally would be. This foggy, mysterious light that makes you go, what's going on? Some more misty light at Snoqualmie Falls is the next photo. These shafts of light hitting the trees and through the mist that's coming off the waterfall. And it's funny, when we were taking when I was taking this photo, some people were asking, "What are you taking pictures of?" Because it's not the waterfalls, which is what everybody takes photos of. I had some of those, of course, but I said, "Look over here. There's this mist and these rays of light coming through that you don't see very often because of the position and angle." And they went, "Oh, I didn't see that." So look for the light, see what it's doing. Look for the ways it's interacting in unexpected ways with things around this main subject you came to photograph. Oftentimes that can be really, really fascinating. Not the thing you came to photograph, but the stuff around it that gets transformed by light. Next photo is in the golden hour, sunset time, right before sunset. This leaf with some water drops on it, right outside the classroom door. So this golden light transforms this fall leaf on the ground, gives it an extra presence, an extra different feel to it because of the nature of that light, that it's so much orange in it that we don't normally see during the rest of the day. Also, the shadows are coming from a different angle because the light is at a different angle. So again, all very, very different. Next photo is a monkey puzzle tree, again, outside our classroom. Again, this photo I think was taken the same day as the previous one, the leaf. The sunset light right before sunset, that golden hour, makes for some dramatic shadows. And again, watch for shadows. It's amazing. It's neat to have light, but shadows sometimes tell different stories. They help us, they bring mystery, and shadows and mystery bring people more into your photos because they have to create a story to try and figure out what's going on in the photo. If everything can be seen and clearly understood, that's wonderful in some ways, but it doesn't invite as much invention, if you will, and creation on the part of the viewer. And speaking of that, the next photo kind of does that as well. A picture of a lady at King Street Station in Seattle, just I'm assuming waiting. But I loved how these three light panels these three swatches of light were hitting the bench she was sitting on, and she wasn't in the light. And it just tells this story. I imagine as each of us look at this photo, we're bringing our past and our stories and our experiences, and we're making up a story about what this lady's thinking, feeling, why is she there? And those are some of the most powerful kinds of photos where you invite people to participate in what they're seeing. The next photo is in the Student Union building, those red chairs, but the sun was just coming in at this really dramatic angle and hiding the background. So I just set the camera down low and took a couple pictures, and I really, really like this one. Again, mystery, drama, kind of film noir kind of thing. By hiding things, you bring attention to other things that are in the light, but it also creates mystery in the sense of you don't know necessarily, if you didn't know where this was, this might be brand new, and you might be makes you more interested because of the drama of it created by the light. Again, we're not seeing the light in the photo, we're not seeing the source of light, but it is a very dramatic light source, and therefore it creates interesting and dramatic photos. Similarly, we've got some turnstiles at the Ferry Building in Seattle. And again, just drama here. Very much is just black and white. Not a lot of tones here. This photo is converted to black and white, but even without that, there's not much color. It's all the work of these reflections and the light just coming in through the window, and there's no people. So again, you have to kind of decode what's going on. So the light is giving the gift of mystery and drama, which creates a more interesting photo of some ordinary subjects. That's the next photo. Next photo is in the Student Union building again, just a student climbing the stairs. I underexposed this a little bit to create some more drama in the light. It was ordinary light. Feel free to see light a little differently, to see more than there really is or less, and adjust your camera accordingly to tell a story maybe a little bit differently. Um, so this photo again, it has just some accents of some highlights, not a lot of detail, but enough to see that it's a person walking. So again, you get some mystery, some drama, a sense of journey and story, which again invites the person looking at the photo to participate and to make the story more interesting because it's theirs. And then lastly, we have a photo here of a rainy road with a street light. So you have a stoplight. So you got a red light, or you got brake lights, I think, and then a green traffic light. It's abstract. It's just some shapes and tones and colors. So and some texture. Again, not specific. It's so it lets people create their own stories. I keep saying that, but light will let you do that. You don't have to expose to show everything. You can be mysterious, and sometimes those are the most interesting photos because you have to look at it a little bit longer, and in looking at it a little bit longer, you're investing time and energy, and therefore it becomes more interesting. So, interesting light is habit number 9. Look for it. Obviously, the sunrises and sunsets and foggy days; those are the easy ones to think of, but you don't have to wait for those. What you need to wait for and look for and pay attention to, and including in your photos, is how the light is interacting with your subject, with the area surrounding your subject, and leverage those things to make more interesting photos. Also, obviously, we can play with exposure to maybe hide some light or make it brighter than it really was to, again, tell the story we want with our photos. Light's amazing. Become the more you become aware of it, the more powerful it becomes in your image making and storytelling. So I hope that's helpful. Habit number 9, more interesting light.